Hi, Kevin Greene here. Welcome to Pathways to the Past. Actually filming this on 4th of July, so happy birthday America. I'm in downtown Seymour outside my shop. I get asked from time to time to give walking tours around Seymour where I talk about local history. And at one time I used to be asked to speak about local history to different groups around, and I came up with a program where I did a PowerPoint presentation, and the way it would work, I would show an old picture of Seymour from somewhere, or Jackson County anyway, and I'd have people try to guess where the picture was taken, and then I would show as close as I could get to the exact same angle and view today. Then you could compare the two and see how it's changed. And I thought it might be fun to try to do a video on location like that. And so I printed off some pictures, and I'm going to walk around downtown and show and see how this goes. See if I'm coordinated enough to film and show the old picture and the new picture and talk about it all at the same time. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so here's the first one. I didn't have to go too far to get it, but you might be able to recognize some of these buildings. If I scan up, you can see it's the west side of the 100 block of North Chestnut Street. You can see the community agency building there. Still looks pretty much the same. Buildings where the old bank is are changed, and the three stores in this picture were made into one big one-story building later. Interesting, the next building down, you see the old Knights of Pythias building. You can see like a turret, castle type decorations along the top, which you can see where they would have been, but they were removed. I think there was a tornado at one point that took those off. And of course the inn building is T. Myers Jewelry Store, which basically hasn't changed today. And as far as I know, it was built as a jewelry store in 1880s and it's still a jewelry store today. Here's the next picture. Shows some work going on in the middle of the street there. I can date this picture as to 1907 because the work that's going on is putting in the rails down the middle of the street for the interurban to come through. So it came through in 1907. The corner that we're looking at here is the corner where my shop is today, 2nd and Chestnut Street. You can see, starting on the right side, the original bank building that was on the corner shown there. It was taken down, I think, in 1929 for the new building to be built. See the drugstore. My shop was built as a drugstore, 1860s. And this is one of the few pictures I have of it showing as a Carter's drugstore. It was Carter's, it was Peter's before that, it was Andrew's before that. The big three-story building that you see in the picture would have been J.C. Grubb warehouses at the time. You can see today that those are reduced to one-story buildings. That's because of a fire in 1951 that took those out. There you have it. And speaking of the interurban, this shot shows one of the interurban electric cars going down the middle of the street there, with the station, the interurban station and lunchroom there on the left side, and a couple of car barns where they would pull the cars into to service them if they needed to. Today we're looking at this scene here. This is the 100 block of East 2nd Street. So the interurban tracks came down the middle of the street here, went down to Chestnut and turned south onto Chestnut. The Knights of Columbus building today is basically from, let's see, that section right there from the two car barns and the station were taken out to build a furniture store, which is now the Knights of Columbus building. The two buildings that you see next to it to the right should be the two buildings on the right side just behind the interurban car there. Incidentally, Seymour was the dividing point between Indianapolis and Louisville for the interurban. So Indianapolis to Seymour was one company, and then from Seymour to Louisville was a second company. You'd have to change cars if you were going straight through in Seymour. I'll have to do a full video on the interurban line one of these days. It's a real interesting story. And here's the next shot. Here's a hint. See at the bottom of this postcard, Business Houses, Indianapolis Avenue, Seymour, Indiana. There's really only one building in this shot that's still recognizable today. That's the Schweitzer's German restaurant, best known by a lot of people around town as the Chatterbox Bar. This basically looks the same today as it did in the picture, honestly. It has a sign that says restaurant here. There's a bathhouse next to it. Now the buildings there to the, on the right side of the postcard, I don't know if what we have today, which is a part of what was the old Sears building at one time, if those buildings were taken down and a new building built. But I actually kind of suspect that the old buildings were left and were just refronted with new fronts, because the spacing seems to be just about right in the picture. I have to tell you, it's interesting and maybe a little bit humbling to think that I'm standing on the exact spot that the photographer set up his camera 100 and some years ago. Here we have Cordis Hardware Company. Now this is the Cordis Hardware tractor and farm implement sales, not to be confused with the main Cordis Hardware store, which was in the 100 block of West 2nd Street. But today, location of Rails Restaurant. So you have the big opening in the middle, which I saw a later picture which showed it even a larger opening. I guess the tractors got bigger. It's a stairwell to the right side, of course, which is part of where the patio is today. Well, if you grew up in Seymour, this would probably be an easy one. Definitely the noisiest one I've done. So we've got Hart's Sandwich Shop. Of course, today that would be Larison's on the corner of Chestnut and Tipton Street. Sign over the corner entrance has Ed's Hamburger Shop, I think it says. Buy 'em by the sack. I remember it being Hart's as I was growing up. The building there on the right side should be recognizable. Widely known as the Farmers Club building. Today it houses the Jackson County Chamber of Commerce. The vacant lot next to it, which is the Burkhart Park now, Burkhart Plaza, had the, from this angle it shows the fire station. It was actually the fire station and the police station on the back side of it, and then the city hall I think was on the second floor. Farmers Club building was built in 1914 by the Blish family that owned the Blish's mill. They turned wheat into flour, and it was built to give the farmers a place to congregate and socialize, especially during the long lines of waiting to get their grain unloaded at the mill. It actually was a club chartered in 1912 before the building was even built. Here's the final picture for this time. This is a pretty well-known picture. It came from the 1956 Seymour High School Patriot, which is the name of the local yearbook for the high school. Shows a group of teenagers walking down the street. Adler's Dress Shop in the background, jewelry store to the left in the background. Of course, you can read the Seymour National Bank on the sign, and today standing here with the same view. Corner building hasn't changed a whole lot, honestly. That was built as a grocery store back in the late 1800s. It was Hancock Brothers Grocery Store. It was called People's Grocery Store at one time. In this particular shot is Adler's Dress Shop. Later was Stoner's Fashion. Find it interesting that the old clock tower or clock on the side of the bank building was replaced with a modern version. Wonder what happened to the old one. You need to know. So that's that for this segment. What do you think? Was it fun? I kind of enjoyed doing that. I definitely could do a lot more. I've got hundreds and hundreds of old pictures of the area. Excuse me. If you'd like for me to do more, let me know. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more. So that's for this. In the video, I think what I'll do is I'll edit in a still picture of each view that I showed, so that you can kind of compare next to the shot of what it looks like today. So anyway, have a good day. Thanks, see you, bye.